Shout out to Douglas,
I
brothers.
call to order the committee of the whole meeting at 6:31 PM in the boardroom of Oak Park and River Forest High School. Please call the roll.
Mr. Wilson,
Here.
Dr. Dale,
Here.
Mr. Arkin,
Here.
Mr. Gertz,
Here.
Dr. Lewis,
Here.
Mr. Barnhouse.
Here.
And Mr. Langley.
Here. I move to enter closed session for the purpose of discussing the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district, or legal counsel for the district, and independent contractors and specific volunteers, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee or against legal counsel for the district to determine its validity. However, a meeting to consider an increase in compensation to a specific employee of a public body that is subject to the Local Government Wage Increase Transparency Act may not be closed and shall be open to the public and posted and held in accordance with this act. Collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or their representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees, and litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of the particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting. May I have a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Dr. Dale,
Yes.
Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
Mr. Gertz,
Yes.
Mr. Wilson,
Yes.
Mr. Barnhouse.
Yes.
Dr. Lewis,
Yes.
and Mr. Langley.
Yes.
All right, we ready to see.
Hello, good evening, everyone. We're going to reconvene open sessions. And we will start with public comments. So is there any public comments? We don't have any. Hearing none, I now move to approve the minutes. So I move to approve the January 15, 2026 committee of the whole minutes as presented. Are there any corrections or adjustments that need to be made? May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes are approved. And so first up is the Search Institute fee for service contract, and I think Tony or Jen?
Right, good evening, everyone. So, Principal Parker and I are both, presenting the search contract for tonight. And I think, we'll just begin with a little background information about our previous work with the developmental relationships framework, and then go into the contract.
So 2 years ago, well, not this school year, last school year, we introduced to the administrative staff the Search Institute's framework on developmental relationships as a way of an entry point to making sure that as administration, we were working on the key tenets of that framework to build connections and relationships within our building that we were wanting to eventually flow down into our teaching staff and into the staff of the building altogether. It's a model with 5 domains that speaks to how we relate to one another as a foundation to getting the other work that is necessary within the school done. When we first introduced it to the administration, there was some concern by our division heads that to put this out to the faculty at that time would be a lot to ask of them as one more thing. And so we focused mostly on our administrative offices as well as administrative level staff, making sure we were doing this and exhibiting those qualities and characteristics. So it's not seen as something that's an extra thing, it's a who we are as we're going through. And so when Jen came on board, we talked about how to build this out so that we had a better understanding of it as administrators with the Search Institute's help, as well as moving it forward to within the building to our other staff.
So in beginning to work with the Search Institute, they will work with our leaders in June and August. And then they are it is a research-based framework. It's built on social emotional learning. It is built on culturally responsive teaching practices. And it also uses more current work on improvement sciences. So that's really the work that we'll tap into in August. So in June, our administrators will dive deeply into each of the framework components and what that really means to implement that system-wide. In August, we'll work on, we'll learn more about implementation science, but really think about and design plans to implement it very deeply with all the employee groups in the system. Then when we start the school year in August, Search Institute consultants come in and provide in-depth professional learning for both our certified and non-certified staff. And they will support Principal Parker and myself, Jennifer Brigman and David Noreen in doing some of the major planning and working as the point people. Then the work takes root through us. We're actually going to use some of our panorama data and indicators to support with metrics so that we can focus on our implementation, but then also measure the implementation in the building. And you have the contract available for you. We are seeking a contract and partnership with the Search Institute for $38,000.
Questions?
Yeah, how did you begin working with the Search Institute? How did we evaluate other organizations? I understand that, when you're talking about professional services, it's not always at the staff. So could you elaborate on kind of how that partnership began and why we decided that this was the partner of the school?
When I initially started this 2 years ago, I did introducing myself to the staff, so I did not go to the Search Institute. I took what they presented and in conversation with my MTSS coordinator at the time, who had learned about the Search Institute work at a conference. And then in understanding what the domains were, I said this would support the work that we're doing about culture of the building, and I introduced it that way. And then once Jen came on board, she actually had worked with the Search Institute directly, and I said, we actually were using this informally, and that's when we tied it to Search Institute. In terms of going to them as the professional organization.
Yeah, so I've worked with them in the past. They do, as they work with their districts, they also collect data over time. So, if it's the desire of the board for us to provide other districts that they work with, we can definitely provide that for you.
I think that the biggest concern is, right, I mean, the contract is, I think the value of the contract is not exorbitant for the services that are being offered. It does seem a little silly that 29% of it is travel, because it's a Minneapolis-based organization. So, it is a methodology that, that resonates with the administration, with the leadership. Are there other similar type organizations that are perhaps closer, that we could use a little bit of that, that's kind of where my head's at, and I'd like to understand better, if this is like the unique diamond in the rough, and that's why we have to, reach out to Minneapolis for what makes this different.
I think it is unique, and it's unique because it draws on several bodies of research, and also because they've collected the data over time on this specific framework. So for example, if we wanted to work locally here in Illinois, we could work with Castle, who are the developers of the social and emotional learning standards, and they have those standards both for students and adults. There are many presenters around the world who could just work on the social emotional learning factors. We could most likely, and we have our own work that we have done with equity in our system, with our care teams and using courageous conversations. But this really is taking Zaretta Hammond's work and some other pieces of work that are on culturally responsive teaching and pulling that in. They also use implementation science. I'm only pulling one of the authors right now, but that's Burke, and this is some of the work that comes out of the Carnegie Foundation. West 40 actually does work with implementation science, and we've been in conversations with them as well, but they don't have a framework that's been researched over years that has 5 very tangible components that then can be operationalized into practice. And I would say, as you think about all the work that's been done here on culture and climate, it's been a lot of work, and there's been a lot of success in that work. But I don't know that there's an institution that we've been able to find that actually works with all the employees in the building and has a framework that everybody can use and supports schools and does professional development in schools. The other factor that always happens for us is that consultants have much more credibility for us when they work at the high school level, and they actually have a high school classroom experience or researching at the high school level. And this particular group brings that high school experience and picture, into play. And then the reason a consultant and us just not, there's research out there, we could read it, try to apply it ourselves. Some of it is just our size and our scope is leaning on a consultant so that we can have help. But to your point, I do think the framework is unique.
And then, one of the things that I think I've seen from the teacher responses, like the 5 sections, is this request for professional development specifically outside the district. That I think teachers want to work with, whether it's their peers in other districts or cross-country best practices. Have we taken any surveys or discussed with different groups of teachers if this is the type of professional development that would kind of answer that request? Because I don't want, if this ticks the box, that's great, that's what I love, but if it's not taking the box, I'll spend answer what you're asking.
I do know that this was part of our opening professional development for the 25-26 school year. And one of the things I challenged all of the teachers and staff in the building was to hold us as administrators accountable for actually putting these domains in play. And they were doing that in terms of having those conversations and saying, I don't know that I'm seeing express care here, here's the interaction I've had. And it helped us to reset in some places in order to do that work a little bit better with them. So they have knowledge of this, they need more work within it, and I think the training that's being offered through this with our administrators will help it solidify what we were talking about and get it more out to the people better, so.
And our current structure on our institute days and our professional learning days is to do a little bit of all district professional learning. Then we have strands for our teachers where the teachers present to the teachers, so about 1 hour sessions. Those strands this year have been divided into instructional areas, assessment and data, technology, so technology integration, and then social and emotional learning, and there's also, I would say in a lot of the sessions, there's a lot of equity and educational equity built into those sessions. So we actually just asked for feedback of our staff yesterday, and we asked about whether they wanted to continue these sessions or not. So in that feedback, which you'll see, because they attended strands on social and emotional learning, there was a lot on trauma informed, which actually that research is in here too. And you'll see mixed reviews. There are staff who really they really enjoy the technology sessions and want to focus more on that, which we're committed to with the work that we presented to all of you on AI. But you will also see staff that they're actually asking us to operationalize social and emotional learning and to do it systemically rather than in optional sessions. And I would say that systemic theme, what can we do systemically, was actually pretty prevalent in that feedback from yesterday.
Other questions, comments? Well, thank you for presenting and for the work that you started and that you're continuing. I do appreciate the focus on operationalizing it and how do you make it go to work within the building. So we'll come back in a couple weeks.
Thank you.
Next, we have our finance. Fabregas. And I think Brian Long, yes, please. The next several are yours.
Yep. So the first is our resolution for transfer of funds and abatement of working cash. As it comes time to move money over to pay for expenses for project 2 in the home stretch. one of the funds that we're transferring from is our working cash fund. That requires a little bit different set of rules than prior transfers. And so you'll see with this memo, there's actually a formal resolution. It's called abatement of working cash when we transfer money out of the working cash fund to another fund. It's a formality of that fund in particular. But we are seeking the authorization to abate our working cash fund to pay project bills.
Questions?
Yes, I have just one question, which is there sort of a normal amount or a target amount that you aim to keep in the working cash fund?
It's more relative to your whole fund balance. It can be negative, but that depends on, for example, if a common practice in districts is to issue working cash bonds to then pay for summer construction projects. You would have a much higher fund balance in there when that was issued and then expended down. So Brian, I don't know if you have a thought to that. The working cash fund too. When you look at it as its own unique fund, it's really a fund that generally is there for transfers to begin with, so it doesn't have expenses, so the expense to fund balance ratio looks really unique, to say the least, because there's no expenses to compare it against.
Yeah, it's really more of a cash reserve type fund. It gets used, periodically at some districts to loan money to other funds when in need. If you're waiting on property taxes or another source of revenue to come in. There by state statute, there or by school code rather, there is a minimum that we must keep in that fund once we've established a working cash fund. So in calculating the amount that we were able to do for this abatement, we had to keep in mind what that minimum was so that we were staying in compliance there with school code.
You feel comfortable with the $800,000 balance as sufficient?
Yes, and as part of the calculation, they also look at any tax levy dollars that will be coming into the working cash fund in the future. So, with the situation we're in now, we've levied for 2025 this past December. None of that money has come to us yet, but because of the delays at the county, we're also still owed money from our 2024 tax levy. So when you take those 2 years worth of levies and add them to the remaining cash we have left, it puts us somewhere in the neighborhood of like $1.5 million that will still be attributable to the working cash fund once we get all those taxes.
Thank you.
What's the timeline for January's property taxes for the county? What's the lag there?
I actually have a call next week for the latest update on that, so I can update the board when we have it, but what I can say is the projected schedule that the county has put out to everybody has not been wholly accurate. So instead of going off their schedule, I'd like to see kind of the feedback we've got from our tax coalition group that's advocating for us. And I would bring that information forward at that point.
And when you say not accurate, you mean historically or just this past?
Just this past year. So what's happened is there's a significant delay caused by a technical issue. They went to a new technical system on the back end. They're having a migrate of problems with that. There was a memo put out recently, with estimated dates and percentages that they would then release to districts, and it's a lot of the numbers that even the payments we have gotten now are based on last year's levy, not our current levy, just because they know that they're really putting us between the rock and a hard place. I don't have a lot of confidence in those dates and the information that was released by the company.
No other questions, we can move to the next topic, the renewal for audit services.
Sure, we have expired now our 3 years in our initial contract with Lauterbach and Neiman. They've given us a proposal to engage for next year's tax audit. The proposal itself, both in terms of the increase and then the total dollars, very favorable for the district. To give you an idea, we right now with the state of kind of the new norm of our district of now being within our fund balance policy. Anytime we have a renewal, we tend to look at where the market's at and see would it be more advantageous to go to RFP or would it make sense to accept this renewal? And when we went to audit, when we hired Lauterbach and Neiman, we received a series of quotes from different auditing firms. This number is still 26% lower than the lowest second quote that we received 3 years ago. So and in talking with districts that I know that use other firms, the numbers have not fallen. And so this is really when we talk about efficiency and bang for your buck with the district, they do an incredible job. They're very they're thorough, but they're good to work with. They're a good partner to the district for the audit. And for the price that we've been quoted, we recommend renewing this for the additional year.
Quick question for you. I know that our previous audit firm, we had been with for a long time. And there's what is the best practice in terms of, I remember that there is a point in time where you should, whether it's after 3 years, 5 years, whatever, but you should turn over audit firms.
It's interesting because the best practice on that tends to vary by who's saying it's the best practice. This is one that I've seen 5 years, I've seen 10 years, and I've had presentations where they say that they're providing a thorough audit of your district finances, and they're continually, like, if you can track the level of the service you're getting in the fraud audits and things like that they do haven't just become repetitive, but they are actually engaging different board members and not the same board member every time to see question concerns that it may not even make sense to make a switch. So this is one that's depending where you look, it could be 5 to 10 years, which this being our 4th year then with them going forward, would still give us this year an additional year before some of the more aggressive best practice recommendations.
One additional, I'm sorry, one additional thing I was just going to add to that too is some of the audit firms themselves will also take this into account in that while they'll keep the partner or the manager in place on the job from a relationship standpoint, they will often rotate their own staff who are performing some of the day-to-day work on the audit as a means of providing a fresh set of eyes to the client and the numbers they're looking at and stuff like that. And we have noticed that even in just the 3 years that Lauterbach and Neiman has worked on our financial audit.
What Brian said, and 5 years is what I have in my head. So they need to swap out partner and or team 2 years from now to keep it past this first 5 years.
So is to ask for a 2-year contract just to get to the 5 years?
No, it's we're at the point where we'll bring this one forward, and then around this time next year, we would evaluate the level of service we received on that year's audit, and then either choose to go to RFP or bring an extension to this forward.
Any other questions?
It also is when we get to this topic, the CFC charter, evaluation of the auditor is also something that CFC is called out specifically for.
One, you go for you.
This, again, it's time for, annual yearbook renewal. The, vendor that we have used is Jostens. That's been, decades and, preemptive answer to a question. I don't think there's the best practice. I don't want to switch your yearbook on me. The district is really satisfied with the, service we get from Jostens. Having seen the products and been through a different RFP at a different location for yearbook quality, this is an area that really get what we pay for. Jostens, when we asked our teaching staff their recommendation on if they would like to renew or not before we even get into the finances, they we're unique in the sense that yearbook here is a course and not just an after school activity. And the level of engagement that Jostens provides academically for those students is tremendous. So they have recommended the same increase that they did last year at 4%. That is in line, very in line with where the market's at. So we are recommending renewing the contract with Jostens for next school year.
Questions or comments? Okay. And then the balance devices.
Okay, we had brought in student devices and now we are bringing forward our staff device recommendation. We are recommending the purchase of the staff devices. Looking at some of the questions that we had that came up on the student devices in terms of warranty and what it was covered. We actually, when we asked questions and we received our approval, but we're able to modify that contract to save, Eric, do you remember the total amount we were able to save off the top of your head on the student devices? It's about $20,000, just under.
I think it was a little bit more than I think it was closer to 60, I think. We
60,
budgeted,
okay.
we budgeted for that and it wound up coming under.
And again, on the total on the total devices, but the warranty savings itself at the end, I think made a nice chunk into that. And what we did is have them apply that same warranty where we vetted that by getting the warranty through TDW instead of directly through the manufacturer, we're still getting the same coverage. Just the claims will be different that we bring forward. It's interesting that when we get our initial quotes for budgeting season at this time last year, between this time last year and that when we were budget, it was thought that the devices would be cheaper. We now live in a chip crazy environment today with AI data centers popping up everywhere. So the this would exceed for this individual line would exceed the budgeted amount, but it would still come under when we put all our devices together, which is the line that lives within the budget. We still come in under budget on the total line, and the devices are actually less than we paid last year. We were able to negotiate, which is not as low as we thought they would be when we set the budget forward.
Why did we think we would get even lower last year?
Prices for the devices, so what we'll do is when we set our budget, we'll reach out to, kind of as part of our zero-based budgeting technique, is reach out to the manufacturers and say, okay, we know in February, we're gonna need to buy X number of devices. Based on your current prices, what would that cost? And there was a savings at that time. Eric had talked to, this isn't just CDW would raise prices, but this is really across the board on all Lenovo devices. And then we look at Dell's to see, did they hold flat? And the prices had increased versus what they would have been when we got the quote, when we did the budget last year.
Is there any seasonality to it?
Eric, I don't believe so, but I'll let you answer. It's more, I believe it's more situational than seasonality. And there, I know we did ask them, if we waited a little bit and the the thought, not just from CDW, but then just some of the other districts we communicate with was we're probably going to see the prices continue to increase, at least in the short term. But Eric, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
It's definitely situational. Having done this for about 28 years now, I've never seen anything quite like this between the tariffs last year and now the data centers that are being built for AI. We are just getting tapped out. There's no chips. I think one company bought all of Micron's chips for the next 24 months. And I don't know if you've been reading the news, but they're going to reopen 3 Mile Island, and one of those reactors is going to solely provide electricity to all the data centers for Microsoft. So it is really becoming a big problem, and it's for the forecast is for the next 18 to 24 months before we see it start to stabilize again.
Any other questions? Thank you, Tony, for your team. Eric, Ryan, appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's move into section 9 for policy, and Karen Sullivan come up about naming rights. Recognition, right?
Hello, everyone. Tonight we have 2 naming recognitions brought by the Imagine Foundation. And these are aligned with this naming recognition guide that they published earlier this year. It's linked in the memo tonight. So we have 2 recognitions. The first one is a classroom for Linda Tobensky, who taught Spanish here for 18 years. Her family has pledged $25,000 for a 10-year period for that particular classroom where she taught. And the second one is in honor of Shatka Ruggiero. She's a longtime local philanthropist. And there's actually 2 spaces in this recognition. One is the dance multi-purpose gym that's being built in Project 2, and the SRC elevator. And she has pledged $100,000 again for a 10-year recognition. So we would bring the agreements forward at the regular meeting later this month.
Questions or comments? I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.
For the holds. And next we have our policy for first read, and for our policy committee, turn it over to Josh and Tim.
I'll go first and Josh joined in. So the policies of first read are from Press Plus. The policy committee met a couple of weeks ago to go through these. They are they kind of fall in a couple of categories. For the most part, they are updates due to legislative updates. So there are word changes, tweaks here and there, simply to update policy language to conform with the legislative update. There are a few that are a little more substantive. Again, these are to conform with either Press Plus's recommendations or with legislative updates. The policy packet that comes from Press Plus is circulated to the district leadership team. Each of the administrators who's responsible for sort of operationally responsible for that policy update has seen the update, has vetted it, and the response is that either we are already following the revised policy or have been following the terms of it, or logistically it is not an issue that to follow the revision. So we have that reassurance from the district leadership team on all of these. There is one that I just want to draw your attention to if you haven't read it. That's the last one in the packet. It has to do with the legislation passed late last year around immigration enforcement and safe schools. We sent that to our outside counsel to make sure that it didn't conflict with our own safe schools policy around immigration enforcement actions. Our outside counsel has assured us that it does not conflict in any way. This is the update coming from the state, but it aligns with what we're actually already doing. It does two things. It has a few qualifiers of things that districts should not, under any circumstances, do. Each of those conforms with our safe schools policy. And it also directs the superintendent of each district to establish policy around immigration enforcement. Well, we've already done that. So we're ahead of the curve there. That's kind of an overview. I would suggest that if any of you have any questions, reach out to me.
Can I just add two things about the policies, if I could? First, regarding there are two questions within the policies given to us by press that we have, for pretty clear reasons, have opted to ask the board to approve at our next meeting in the default language that's provided. First is regarding policy 2150. And that provides for various board committees, and in the section specifically related to our Culture, Climate, Behavior Committee, there's a reference that if we have a special education cooperative, we could add language for that. We don't have a special education cooperative, so that's obviously default. And the second one is regarding a potential curriculum revision that we could opt for regarding mandatory teaching of the Irish famine. And we opted not to add to our curriculum at this point because of that recommendation. And so that was 660. And you know what, actually a third, I also want to bring up, Tim, you might have mentioned this, so I apologize if this is redundant. Did you mention 6300 as well, the grad requirements?
No, I didn't. Thank you, Frank. Would you please?
Yeah, sure. So 6300 is actually a recommendation. The change we've made there was a recommendation that came to us from Dr. Hester. And it really is just for consistency and transparency. We want to make sure that all of the graduation requirements, not only those that are required for by state code, but also ones that are our own local graduation requirements, are reflected in our policy, so that no matter where a family comes across our grad requirements, whether it's in board policy or in our academic catalog, they're going to get the complete package of information about what they are and what they know their students need to achieve over their 4 years here. And so what you'll see here is basically 2 pages of information from our academic catalog added in, not only those specific grad requirements in terms of course credits, but also our policy committee, after reviewing it, decided that we would add in page, I think, 12 of our academic catalog, which includes those other types of graduation requirements, like the SAT, for example, and the variety of others that you'll see there. So again, no changes to grad requirements, just a change in how we're communicating it for the purpose of clarity and transparency.
Can I ask a question about that section, policy 6300?
Sure.
So there's a list there that includes a point number 4, passing an examination on patriotism, principles of representative government, proper use and display of the American flag. And then it looks like methods of voting and the Pledge of Allegiance have been struck from what's required. Is that an accurate interpretation of that sense?
I have to go to that document, but whatever we have there, it is not a change towards, for what we currently have in our academic catalog. Give me 1 second.
I'm just curious about because the Press Plus recommendations are coming from the state, right? So I'm just curious about that recommendation to remove methods of voting from the civic.
Here we go.
I can follow up with the policy committee on the between now and next week, our next meeting.
Okay, that'd be great. If I get there and I can respond to that more specifically in the next few moments, I will.
My understanding, Kathleen, is that it's simply it's a reflection of updates to the law. So, the comment, plus two comments,
Yeah.
it's talking about this is in response to a law change.
So, I mean, the state law has changed so that we're no longer teaching methods of voting in high school.
That's all I'm reading.
So
I want to make sure we're giving the right information on that. So can we flag that and make sure, oh, I see. You're talking about the portion of the recommendation that is in the Press Plus, and I may have missed you because I'm remote there. You're not asking a question about what's in our academic catalog currently. You're asking specifically about the Press Plus changes right now, right?
I have a little trouble navigating this document, but yes.
Yeah, I understand. Obviously, I do too. But number 4, passing an examination of patriotism, principles of representative government. Yeah, I see. Yes, that is a recommended change that is coming to us from the state, and it's updated in response to, there's a state law cited there in the right-hand column of that. It was a state law that was repealed, from what I see right there, by Public Act 104-391. I don't know the back history on that one. If you'd like me to explore kind of why that is the case, I could do so, Kathleen.
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll see what I can find out.
So I was looking at
Thanks, Greg.
I was looking at 105 Illinois compiled statutes 5/27-510, patriotism, principles of representative government in elementary civics education. It says the proper use and display of the American flag shall be taught in all public schools and other educational institutions. No student may receive the certificate of graduation without passing a satisfactory examination on such subjects, which may be administered remotely. This instruction may be taught alongside the curriculum in the 1 semester of civics education for students in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade under subsection B. But yeah, it says nothing here about the Pledge of Allegiance, except for the fact that the Pledge of Allegiance shall be recited each school day by pupils in elementary and secondary education institutions supported or maintained in all or part by public funds.
Yeah, my concern is specifically around whether the state of Illinois and or certainly OPRF is removing instruction on methods of voting for students. And if that's the state, if we're no longer required to do so by law, I guess I would recommend that we do that anyway. Because I think that's important in civics curriculum.
Yeah, I'm sure our history and civics teachers would eagerly agree with you. So let me see what I can find out there specifically, okay?
Thank you.
Can I ask you about 2:150? Forgive me if I'm misunderstanding how this is presented, but the header is standing board committees, and then there's new added language, parent teacher advisory committee and behavioral interventions committee.
Yes.
Are we adding those committees?
No, those are currently in place right now. So it actually, this relates, yeah, if I could explain, this actually relates to something that I think Audrey, I think, had planned to discuss maybe in the governance section a little bit later on in this meeting. So we, in this district, we satisfy the requirements of the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee and then fold into this, obviously, the behavioral interventions that are part of our behavior education plan. We fold those 2 requirements into our Culture, Climate, Behavior Committee. So we use that committee for this purpose.
So we satisfy the requirement all under CCB.
100%. That is exactly right.
Thank you.
And this actually is I'm just going to kind of foreshadow that conversation for the purpose of kind of a governance committee, or kind of compare it to the conversation we will have in just a little bit about the CFC charter. This language in policy is in effect the charge, right, of CCB.
The only, I had probably the same question that, Graham has, but now it's a little concerning because to me, in reading the policy as it's being amended and adding these two green paragraphs, it sure seems to me that or I think what it seemed to the public as well, is that these are actually committees outside of culture, climate, and behavior that are being added. And I don't think it's made clear that they're within, and the requirements are within the culture, climate, and behavior committee. Because I've never seen, I mean, these are being added, and I haven't seen this before, written like this.
There's another board policy that speaks to it as well. I see your point, Fred. I see your point. They've teased them out separately, and
if they fall under the culture, climate, behavior committee, maybe they should. That's where they should be written.
Yeah, was this just new language to your Tim and Josh's new language from First Plus that they called it out like this?
Correct.
Because culture, climate, and behavior, I mean, that's what we call the committee, that's our, I know it's meant to satisfy these state requirements. And so maybe a different way that we need to show us, to your point, Fred, around being, am I being clear? But I understand that the whole purpose of CCB is to meet these requirements.
Right, and that's what it's been for a very long time. But I just don't think that it's clear.
yeah,
And
well,
if this would actually be the policy as written, we'd be in violation of it.
Right.
Greg, do you have a comment?
no, it needs to be checked against policy 7230 as well for if we're going to make that revision. So I'll see if we can edit it for clear based off this conversation. If this is the consensus, I'll see if we can edit that policy to add clarity to the fact that CCB, which is that title, of course, is ours, that is not required by state code. So we want to make sure that if we can take those two ideas and fold those into that, so we simplify the list and make it clear that they're covered in that way, we will. And if it looks like we need to make a different change, I'll let the board know next week when we bring it back for a second read. Okay.
So that, please send information out, and get back to you with availability for our next policy meeting. If we need to amend it or revisit it, you want to discuss it at the next policy meeting, and we can bring it forward at the next.
Yes, I think that's a good idea, Josh. And I'm sorry to jump in, but I'm looking now at our actual policy. So we don't have the entire policy that we see here, right? What we're looking at is the portion of the policy that is recommended to be edited by and revised by press. We take a look at our board policy itself, and I take a look at the statutory committees. It does reference the 1, 2, 3, as you see in this, and then this is adding a 4 and 5. But the separate language that is in our policy cites that it states, and then it teases it out more thoroughly. It says, Culture, Climate, and Behavior Committee, the CCB, fulfills the dual responsibility of the Parent-Teacher Advisory Committee in accordance with the School Code of Illinois and the Behavior Interventions Committee as required under Policy 7230. So our policy is clear. The recommendation that we have right now from press to make, the 3-point list of above, the Committee of the Whole, Culture, Climate, Behavior, and the Community Finance Committee, to add a 4 and a 5 to that adds a level of confusion in the list, but it's explained later on in the policy. I think we still want to clean up that confusion in that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 list. And so we'll look to clean that up prior to the next one. But if you get a chance, take a look at the whole policy. And that, again, that's the whole policy is 2/150 there.
So we'll clean up a few things and bring these back.
Yep.
For our next meeting.
Can I say one more thing about policy 6300? I looked in the current policy manual, and that point number 4 about the examination, the civics examination, basically does include methods of voting as one of the items in the list as in terms of what would be covered. So I do think this is a recommendation from the state of Illinois to remove a requirement related to methods of voting. which I just wanna flag as really alarming. And certainly not something that I don't, I mean, I know Greg, you already said this, but.
Well, you know, it's already in our policy, so if this is something that's recommended, have to change. Maintain.
It's a recommendation for not changing that.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
Up next, we have the CSC charter. I didn't know if, our CSC liaison, we're gonna cover that, or Tom's coming up, or.
For this item, I'll tee it up a little bit, but I really I think it should be a good discussion. We reviewed the original CFC charter, which was put together in 2021, and looked at ways that the CFC is structured and operates, and you know what has changed since the charter was put together. This has been discussed several times at the CFC meetings in terms of the roles and responsibilities of various members, calling out terms, who is considered a member for portions of the quorum and who's not, and then after several iterations and edits and review, we are able to bring it forward for the board to approve this month. And I think from just a logistical standpoint, the board wouldn't necessarily notice any changes. It just more reflects the way the CFC operates and the roles and responsibilities of the different members.
I'll highlight three key changes. One is the scope has been beefed up significantly. Secondly, previously the board members were also voting members, which created some OMA complications, but also arguably diluted the independence of the CFC, because ultimately we want those independent citizen experts to be the 5-person voting panel and not board members or administrators. And then thirdly, to Lisa's credit, she encouraged us to call out student representatives being welcome at the CFC, and we're looking forward to having student reps the same way they benefit from having student reps here at this board team. So those are the key changes that come to my mind. Is there anything you think I missed, Kathleen?
Did we review with council whether or not having members vote still satisfies the committee requirements or is problematic for this taking members out of it?
I will check with our attorneys on that. In things we looked at, I did not believe that would cause any complication, but I will confer with our attorneys before this is brought back to be voted on. I believe, because I'm remembering the research when this thought came up. I believe the reason we're able to, and I also confirm this with our attorneys, but the reason we're able to pull the board members off as voting members is because the board votes to confirm the other members of the CFC.
My comment. I think this is great. I mean, I see the development committee moving forward. Can be a great benefit to the board. The one thing that I've always thought has been a little bit of undefined kind of soft spot with the committee is what I would like to see is some type of a reporting function where the work of the committee gets reported somehow in a formal way, gets reported back to the board. Because I think we've had our are people, are board members who've been a part of it. But I think that there should be, whether it's annually, semi-annually, quarterly, monthly, however, that there be a report back to the board of what's going on in the committee, what decisions have been made, et cetera.
Yeah, that was one we discussed quite a bit, and in fact, the original charter said that the CFC chair will make an annual report and presentation. And of course, several years have gone by, and that wasn't gonna happen. So now that clause says the CFC chair may provide annual report and then presentation. I think what we talked about is that the two assigned board members need to be very diligent about making sure they do the report out back to the board. But I think it's, if this board says, hey, we want a presentation, we'll hear directly from the CFC, they should ask for it and the CFC will come at any time, I think, not just once a year.
Yeah, I think I would like to see it as a function separate from our board members who are a part of it, because I think there may be respective issues or whatever, but I would like, it just feels like there's more independence if the board, whether it's the board chairman or whatever, reports back on a regular basis. I don't know what we need or what, as things get going here.
And then why don't we put a clause, something like at the board's request, the CFC shall, because that way we don't. In the chance that we don't end up having a presentation of violation of policy, but we still have to call on them to make a presentation.
Well, here's another idea. What if this is just simply a matter that goes to the future agenda items conversation? Because the new charter already provides for a report out whenever you want it. It'd be more a case of us deciding, can we put this on a future agenda item? We're due for a report from the CFC, or I want them to come and talk about a specific topic.
You think we should to structures we should
Call for it when you want it.
I think we could clean up the language just a little on point number 14, because it looks like we changed the annual written report to may provide, but it is still will make a presentation. So I think we could just clarify a little bit, I think, Tony, the way point 14 is structured.
No, that sounds good, and just so I understand the request too, so when we will actually apply it, we're doing it properly. Are you looking for a like the chair to come present out, or are you looking for a written report just on, we've had our meeting, this is the topics discussed?
I think, as I'm trying to remember when we were doing this discussion, I think May was definitely in there because we don't want to make the chair have to write a book report.
Correct, I think the committee felt like writing an annual report, especially because there are minutes that are submitted, felt burdensome. The written annual report felt burdensome and maybe not necessary.
And then to answer my take on your question too would be, I think it'd be more a case of, yeah, sure, the chair can come, but who does most of the speaking? Could be one of the 5 or 2 of the 5 who maybe have the particular expertise on whatever topic the board happens to be interested in.
So I think what we wanted to say, I think may provide an annual written report is fine, because they may. But I think the clarity would just be something about at the board's request, the CFC can be invited to come and present to the board.
That's just to suggest that I would say at the board's request, because to set up an expectation that there's going to be a frequency that may not be needed, so based on what the topics are or what competition's going on, I'd rather have the flexibility so that we can bring them in and have that when we need it, but not request it when it's necessary. Yeah, I think that's good.
I think you just add at the end, strike the period and say upon request of the board. That would do it.
Article 14.
Yeah.
I was wondering about, you said the students, so were you thinking of it just as the student delegates or open to everyone? Because I was looking at the document, but I can't see anything about that. Maybe I'm just looking in the wrong place. Or is this just like an idea that's not written here?
Actually, student reps are at the top of the third page. But also, it's a good question. Now, those are they're open meetings, so anybody can come to them.
Because I remember we talked about this, about having student reps like come to these committees, and it's been like a conversation, and I think maybe we could have some sort of system in place to also like, I mean, it's new, to help these reps or maybe make it more open, like general knowledge, so if there's people in Oak Grove students that are interested in government and stuff like that they.
And that's a really good point. I think what you're describing is more of a broader program that we have of getting students involved. And I think, I don't know where that stands right now, Greg or Audrey, but that.
I just say yes.
I think it feels like that does need a bit more energy behind it. And then the other thing is we had some terrific presence from students at one of our past CFC meetings. I think the other part of it too, for the student involvement is they're not just simply members of the audience, but also they have a chance to ask questions and be engaged. And we really like that.
Especially for like the younger like delegates, because only the seniors can be at the table now. It's it would be good to have like that experience. I
agree 100%. Yeah, this is a little more formal, and for whatever reason, CFC is a lot more casual. So
yeah.
We definitely want them actually engaged.
You know, we are at actually in a semester right now where we are still operating in the final few months of the board delegate model that we have still technically being a pilot. We need to bring that to the board for approval if we want to continue this, and the conversation here related to other committees, CFC in particular, we could fold into that recommendation.
And thanks for reminding Greg, we do need to get that actually on our agenda, because we did say 18-month pilot and it's kind of going back pretty quickly. Anything else in particular about CFC? And so under the governance section, and Greg referenced this, when a conversation came up about the CFC charter, there was just some more conversation about our board committees and do we need charters? Do we not need charters? Is there clarity? So one of the things I would like us to do from a governance perspective is to really take a step back and look at the various committees that we have from a board perspective, and are they doing what we intended them to do? Is their intended purpose still valid? Does it need to evolve? Does it shift? So there's some background work to be done behind that, but I want to bring it up just as a discussion with this, with everyone before we started doing any program. But some of our committees have been around for a long time, and I don't know if that we've taken the time to say, are we still meeting the desired needs that we have ahead of us?
For what it's worth, the CFC charter reboot was a really good exercise, because a lot of us hadn't even read the thing that even existed, and then when we did, we saw what was really cumbersome rules here. So I think it was worth taking the time to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think for what it's worth, it would be ideal to have to make the link between the committees that we're committing to and our strategic plan priorities. I think that would be a nice thing to strive for, articulating that image.
But there's general, what I will do to start compiling what we have, and just understanding what we do and don't have with respect to those committees. And we can ask for conversations around what that might look like, would that be going forward.
So is it correct, the two board committees now are the Climate, Culture, and Behavior Committee and CFC?
Okay.
Yeah, and I think maybe I had reached out to someone with a question just about whether we have a charter for the Climate, Culture, and Behavior Committee.
Yeah, and that was the one, because we have the policy relative to the requirement for the state. We could talk, I don't know if we need a charter, but I thought it was pretty clear the requirements because of how that committee came to be. But we have other committees as well that we, do, maybe because we have committees that we support, like community committee, government agencies, and councils and things that we're on. As well, I'm just trying to think as we're talking about any other board committees. We can look and see if there's opportunity for clarity or.
Is the policy committee,
What is it?
is that the superintendent's committee?
That's,
Or a board?
it's a board committee.
It's a board committee, yeah.
So that might be one we should.
No. Right.
No.
Everybody not mine.
Sorry, yeah, you answered the question. It's great.
So I'll put together more stuff and come back for our next meeting for a conversation, just to start saying, what do we have, what do you want to dig deeper into? Where is there needs for us to dig deeper?
Yeah, and I would like to just really echo Jonathan's comment that thinking about how the committee structure aligns with advancing the strategic plan goals, I think would be really worthwhile.
Perfect.
Policy on policies.
Anything else under governance? Thanks, Mike. And any future agenda items?
I think we just talked about the student board delegate.
That's right, that's the one I have.
Yeah.
Definitely. Anything else? And I have my rules right, because we recessed our polls committee, we need to go.
Are we gonna do a special board meeting before?
And I think, but they're gonna go back.
We have to go back to the
Close committee, come back and close open.
and then go into special.
Just while we on that. For a future agenda item, we want to discuss the students. Last number for that is that we should bring forward a future.
There have been a lot of comments about that, and I know that the administrative team is already doing some work looking into that, so I do see that as being a future agenda item, and if it gets more details from Greg and his team about what they're looking at.
Johnson, do you have any like updates on timing or about how we push this forward?
Well, Greg, did you catch the question?
Yeah, thanks. No, I actually all night, even though I saw Lisa, you switched it. Josh's mic is not coming through very clearly. It's really, and I don't think it's. Yeah, go ahead.
It's me.
Hear it.
It's really choppy. I can't hear it.
So can you hear me better now?
Yeah, that is a little better. Great.
Okay. I was asking about the Students Meeting Students Initiative, as far as
Oh, right.
if we wanted to bring that forward as a future agenda item. And I wanted to ask you, how do you envision that going before the board? Timing on that, maybe how we should go about that, because there was a lot of community interest there.
Yeah, absolutely there is. And there's some good work we've done in conversations within district already. There was we have a meeting planned with the students and that parent group next Friday, and I'll know a lot more about where we are after we have that conversation. We've also had conversations with Beyond Hunger in the area, our local, food bank, to see what types of partnership models exists, already that we can help to learn from, just kind of, pull from their expertise. Once we've had all of those conversations and we pulled that together, we'll update the board and kind of see where we're at. It's very probable I can see that being a future agenda item for the board. I think that's something that is easily identifiable this semester, but I just don't know exactly when, depending on what the conversation tells us. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Others? So with that, we are going to go back into closed session. So we'll recess open session. We will have to go back to closed session.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you to our student delegates for joining us this evening.
Okay, now.
Okay, now we're back to open session, and we're back in open session to adjourn open session. So, I move first. I, Audrey Williams, we move to adjourn the committee of the whole meeting at 9:16 p.m. Second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Meeting adjourned. Hold on, special. That's for our special meeting. I call to order the special board meeting at also 9:16 p.m. in the boardroom of Oak Park and River Forest High School. Please call the roll.
Ms. Oregon.
Here.
Mr. Curtis.
Here.
Michael Lansing.
Here.
Dr. O'Neill. Here. Mr. Greenhouse.
Here.
Mr. Brisbane.
Here.
Ms. Williams.
Here. Okay. Are there any public comments?
No.
And we have one action item. I move to approve the following action items. Approval of the personnel recommendation, including new hires, resignations, leaves of absences, and releases. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? Okay, please call the roll.
Mr. Curtis.
Yes.
Dr. Livingston.
Yes.
Mr. Brisbane.
Yes.
Mr. Arkin.
Yes.
Dr. Odell.
Yes.
Mr. Greenhouse.
Yes.
And Ms. Williams.
Yes. And I, Audrey Williams Lee, move to adjourn the special meeting at 9:17 p.m. Second.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Meeting is now.